keep that image on screen if I can, and I'm going to play you the music again. It's called The Invocation of the Protected Angels, and these are the Jewish angels, and there are 6 of them named, and I've told you about that in the earlier video, and about all of the words that come through and lead to the revelation in either the Hebrew text or in the English translations, that the secrets of things like the ninos and the ninos and the owls and the brown words and the Miss Molly characters that are revealed and then are sang about in popular culture. Okay, so I'm just going to play this without any commentary, and then I'm going to take you into a series of religious articles on the archangels, and it shows the wind has been howling all afternoon, and the clouds are whipping past. There's a full moon. I think that, you know, everybody up in the skies there is aware of the massive human deceit that has gone into the portrayal of these issues, but I want to show you that it is also linked to biological issues, and the creatures on the 4 corners of the earth and the angels on the 4 corners of the earth are shared in the Christianity story, and I know that there are very close parallels between the miniature part of the universe, which is the submolecular part, and I'm going to show you how sodium channels work and how the architecture has 3 tiers in the sodium channel, just like the tiers that we're going to get here. So this morning I talked about the upstairs and downstairs angels, and we talked about the angels on the front, the back, and the right and the left wings of the system. Okay, so there's a political slant to it, but all of it is offensive to the gods and the elements around them, and I will try and explain that to you as we go along. But let me first just play the spooky commentary. It's on the earlier video I made this afternoon, and the pictures that I'm showing you are of that's the angel Gabriel visiting the Virgin Mary in her little blue dress. Yeah, the parallels to Hitler's birthplace, the parallels to the escape of Hitler, the Innsbruck issues and the jokes of it, the no room at the end, all of it is a massive human mistake, and there are the 3 massive human religions that share the same roots. That's the Judaism and the Jewish nation, the Christian frauds and the Turkish Islamic frauds. Yeah, and you've got the same flowers. I believe those might be orchids by the looks of them, and what we've also got are the doves and the angelic cherubim. Yeah, and all of it is a nice story, and some of the artwork is magnificent. And when you see later on the French churches, I don't know what's going wrong with the videotape. Oh, unless we've got the soundtrack turned off. Let's have another go. Yeah, we've got the soundtrack turned off. That's not a conspiracy theory, it's just me being stupid. So back to the beginning, and we'll quickly play it through without me intervening this time. My commentaries on the first video are made today. Shoot. front of me, Uriel, behind me, Raphael, above the head is Shekinat, and there is the interlocking pyramids. Isn't it funny? It's iconic for the world owners for centuries. On the dollar, and all of the hexagram icons are now explained. All-seeing eye, red, white and blue. To my right, Michael. To my left, Miss Molly. Front is Uriel. And behind is Raphael. Okay, and above is the eternal Shakira or Sheena, whichever your slant is. The mosaic and the Hippocratic snake. Yeah. And there's the sun god. Yeah. And there's the four corners icon plana when we had the flat earth. And we've got the above stairs, upstairs and downstairs sectors as well. Okay? So that is the invocation of the protective angels for the Jewish nation. Everything interlocks with the other religious stories, and all of it is just invented by the humans. Okay, so let's escape from that, and now let's go into my OneNote and have a look at what we've got highlighted about the angels. So there's the scene we've already seen with the Virgin Mary, and there are the icons for the three major religions. Of course, you've got other Jainite religions, and all of them are just jokes and subsidiaries on the same themes. Okay, I need to stop that. Or I can just mute it, and let's now have a look at those. Okay, so the three religions are sharing massive issues, and here you've got a painting of the Annunciation by Paolo de Mattis. So there are two authors of the New Testament, Paul and Matthew, in the artist's name, and what we've got also is the continual referral back to Shakespeare And we've seen already how Shakespeare's writings are right up into the 20th century, and all of them are modified between generations, and all of the historians are corrupted because they condone that. And the whole of world history is corrupted to cover up the crimes of the world owners, and the religious figureheads are massive factors in all of that. So these are the three Abrahamic religions. That's the Abraham that was in the first chapters in the Old Testament in the Jewish Bible before Jesus was born, and made the whole thing even more corrupt, because Jesus was never born. He's just introduced into the story, and all of that is explained on my website and in the videos I've made with John Patterson. Look for Piso fraud, George Lee's John Patterson, and faking the New Testament, or the Piso frauds, and all of it is a master plan to control the masses. See icons there for the three most prominent Abrahamic religions which lead to all global wars. So the strife between the Christians and the Aryan master race against the Jews was one of the factors in the German conflict, but the fact that all of the people who participate are trained in the same place, in Tavistock, or in the Brookings Institute, or in the Liverpool training hubs, or in the Sydney Street training hubs, or in the St. Petersburg training hubs, all of them are run by the world owners and the world's moneylenders, who were, for a large chunk of world global war history, the Rothschilds. And they opted for the Jewish icon, so that when the war crimes and genocides and holocausts were committed, they could completely disown themselves and then use the anti-Semitic accusation. Okay, see icons for the three most prominent Abrahamic religions, okay, from which the Greek archangel, literally chief angel, was derived. Now we get stories about things that are launched into the religious text which are an overt joke in popular culture. So the book of Tobit is a joke about the Hobbit, recognized in the Catholic and Orthodox Bibles, but considered apocryphal by Protestants, mentions Raphael, who is also considered to be an archangel. The archangels Michael, Gabriel and Raphael are venerated in the Roman Catholic Church, with a feast on September the 29th between 1921 and 1969. As you'll see, even the stories about the saints who were sainted when they were martyred for trying to convert to Christianity from the vicious pagan nations, yeah, it's all twisted, and all of it is a massive mind control tool. Okay, the named archangel in Islam are Gabriel. So what we're saying there is that the facts that are supposed to be coming from the oldest parts of the Old Testament are actually just coming out in the 20th century. Somehow I've jumped out of the bit that we were in. Oh, here we are. And the jokes in popular culture are massive. Okay. So the book of Tobit, recognized in the Catholic and Orthodox Bibles but considered apocryphal by Protestants, mentions Raphael. Okay, so the Catholics and the Protestants are sharing the same text. We have the division of the Protestant Bible into Church of Scotland and Church of England, and all of them are different translations, and different printers, and all of it is totally twisted and totally inconsistent. Okay? And the links to the September festivals for the Jewish nations are unmissable now, and you get the rotation of the Easter dates, and in the Yom Kippur and the religious festivals of the lights for the Jewish nation, you get the rotation of the period round about the 25th of December, but the dates for those Jewish celebrations are rotated like the Easter celebrations are for the Christian nations and the Christian faith. In Islam, okay, the named archangels in Islam are Gabriel, Michael or Michael, Israfil, and wait for it, Azrael. That becomes Avril, and that becomes the Avril, the Poisson d'Avril joke. Okay, and everything is just a switch of a few letters or a rotation, or as Mozart in the giveaway in the film Amadeus tells you, that you just say the word backwards. Yeah, I love you, and all of that stuff that he's citing to his missus underneath the table as he gets into her petticoats. Yeah, it is all about the same series of jokes. And here we have the Book of Enoch mentions Metatron as an archangel called the highest of the angels. Okay, and that is the Merton joke. The Metatron, you drop a couple of letters and suddenly you've got Merton, and that is the richest college in Oxford. It's the home for the Duchess and Dukes of Sutherland. They have several homes. It's the border home for the Duchess and Duke of Sutherland. And Merton College is where J.R.R. Tolkien wrote the book about the Lord of the Rings, and we'll get to that soon. Some branches of the faiths mentioned have identified a group of 7 archangels, but the actual angels vary depending on the source. Michael, Gabriel and Raphael are always mentioned. That's Ralph and Rolf in the Sound of the Music films and all of popular culture. Okay, the other archangels vary, but most commonly include Uriel, who is mentioned in 2 Esdras. This is so inaccurate, and this is an excerpt from another Wikipedia entry, and it shows you that all of these stories are in the Torah, the Nevi'im, the Ketuvim, and all of those words reveal Irish family lineages, the Nivens, and the Kevin jokes about Kievan, which was the last place to be converted from paganism to Christianity, way across at the side of Eastern Europe, where the Rothschilds opted for Judaism. Most of the world is by that time converted to Christianity and consumed almost totally by it. Okay, then you've got references to other texts called the Pentateuch, which is an overt joke for Pinohuch, which is the memorial for the Napoleonic Wars in the borders. And then you look at the other labels and you see Deuterocanonical, and the Deuteronomy chapters in the Bibles are laughed at in the stoning in the life of Brian, when the man stands up and reads out the accusations of heresy and blasphemy to the man for saying the word Jehovah, which is now a massive religion with 8 million followers, but all of it is a joke about the stoning, the suppression of women, the need to have beards on so that the women can participate in the stoning, and all of the stones and the gravel are sold to the people by the merchandising teams. It is ludicrous, and that is why the wind is gusting and the trees are almost being uprooted this evening. Can you hear it? And the Tobit is just an out and out laugh at the Book of Tobit is the Hobbit joke, and the Toby jugs are people, little iconic people like the goblins on the church roof, or in modern day parlance they use the Prime Minister as the character, but usually it's the king, and often he's smoking, and the smoking theme and the cigarette holder and British American tobacco in all wars comes up, because it's not safe to smoke, but it is perfectly safe to send your people into martyrdom in religious revolutions that are totally twisted by the world's profiteers. Okay? And in the Old Testament you've got Baruch, and the Baruch bit is explained in some images later on, but Baruch is Barack Obama, and all of the stories about Othello, also manipulated by Shakespeare's writers in the 20th century, yeah, and right up to the Jack the Ripper murders and beyond, and all of that becomes the Macbeth stories and the stories about the pie jokes and the women's genitalia, and the feet being the word for pie in Italian, and that's the Piso joke again. The Pisos are the authors of the New Testament, and there's Barack Obama, the false plant into the American presidency, just to see the prophecy through, that is supposedly 8,000 years old, but it is only written in the last few generations. It's just amazing how the history is twisted. Okay, and let's keep going down. Images here now. So there's an Esdras derivative. This is the Esdras stories, okay, and that is the Edoras joke in the Lord of the Rings. Mi'amar's eldest son fished in some of the lakes that were featured in the Lord of the Rings movie, and what you've got there is places where sleeping kings reside, and you've got quisling American plants manipulating the policy in the court, and all of it. He becomes the writer and the head man for the Monty Python's team. I forget the name of the actor, but the quisling in the court where the king is fast asleep for centuries. I believe that will be a parallel to the gods, and I know now that the gods are woken up and they are ballistic as they listen to all of this story, and because of their lifespan they understand it already. They have been observing it for thousands of years, the whole of biological time, and they want to put an end to it, and I'm going to help them all I can. Okay, so Edoras, the Lord of the Rings joke, is a joke about Esdras, and the biblical or the scriptural texts that were also written in relatively recent times, and all of the stories that you find about Ethiopia just go back 150 years or so, and the genocides in Ethiopia were committed by the Italian armies, not on behalf of the Church of Rome but on behalf of fascism. Okay, prayer of the Manasseh. The Manasseh is a gypsy or a Romany term, and it's quite commonplace all over Europe, and we've got Psalms, Maccabees, that is the part of the religious story, and you can see the links to Macbeth in that as well. Okay, and there's the par alipomena of Baruch. Now in some of the slides later on we've got excerpts from that. All of it is a fairy story. Broader canons. Okay, so there's the source, wikipedia.org wiki/2 Esdras, and that is the Esdras joke, and that is a bigger resolution image of the lakeland town that was built to make the Merton story and the Metatron myths perpetrate that massive fraud. And there are some of the jokes in popular culture. You remember, so sacred texts allude to the six great Amesha Spenta, literally bounteous holy immortals of Ahura Mazda. Now a Mazda is a car, and all the links to almost all the car fleets are religious jokes. I forget the names of the Japanese cars that are part of the Jewish religious festivals. Lieutenant Uhura is another character from Star Trek, and Spock died in the last fortnight. That's the actor who played Mr. Spock, the logical spaceman, died last week, and that is a joke from gods, because they used to make the joke about beam me up, Scotty, and the beaming me up is the air balloon en route to heaven joke, and the Kirk is the name of the captain on it, and Falkirk is the name of the place where my uncle, who did not believe in religion and was quite bombastic when he saw the propaganda coming out of the churches. I remember we took him to a church down near the mouth of the River Tweed, and he came out shouting loudly that the inscriptions on the wall of that church were overtly political. And he came from Falkirk, and I know that Falkirk is named, and it is playing a big role in the revelations about the propagandists, about the fascists, and all of the stories tie in, and the fall of the Kirk is completely appropriate because it is so corrupted. It's incredible. Yeah, the gods should be worshipped because they are the people that gave us everything we have. We've already despoiled large chunks of that, and the Mazda car, I forget what the name of the other cars are. It could be Nissan, Mitsubishi, but if you look at the biblical headings, you will not get that. But if you look for the cars and links to biblical text in the search engines, you'll soon find it. It's everywhere. Okay, there we've got another angel, Jacob wrestling with the angel, by Gustave Doré. Everything is in fine art, and the images I show you later of the churches that were created in the 16th or 17th century to commemorate saints that died in the first 200 years of the religious narrative, which is totally faked up. The stories are incredible, but the art is also incredible. If we were just to use it to create something that the human race could enjoy, and we used it to commemorate the gods that made the universe for us, the world would be a blessedly peaceful place. But instead we invent three messiahs, and we drive the world into conflict and rivalry, even between the denominations for the Christian faith. There are hundreds of denominations now. All of them are just money streams. Okay, the Malachi Adonai, angels of the Lord. In the video I've made on Lord Adonis, you'll see that Adonis in the readings that I have already engaged in means Lord. So Lord Adonis is the Lord of the Lords and he sits in the House of Lords, and his businesses, which are dirty businesses, are all registered there. Okay? So what else? Other terms are used in later texts, such as the Elvanim, the upper ones or the ultimate ones. That's the master race, the Aryan concept. Indeed, angels are uncommon except in later works such as the Book of Daniel, though they are mentioned briefly in the stories of Jacob, who according to several interpretations wrestled with an angel, and Lot, who was warned by angels of the impending destruction of the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. Names for the angels, and wait for it, were brought back by the Jews from Babylon. Yeah, the Babylonian evil centre where the false icons are warned off, and a lot of that is written to create that massive gulf between Christianity and the Jewish nation, that means that the Jews dare not rise up against the new religion because they would be suppressed. And we've heard Abelard Reuchlin talking about that, and the stories about the Jewish massacres and the reducing the numbers of the Jews in that first 250 to 300 years from 8 million to 3 million. Okay, certain angels came to take on a particular significance and developed unique personalities and roles, though these archangels were believed to have rank amongst the heavenly host. No systematic hierarchy ever developed. Metatron, that's the Merton joke, is considered one of the highest of the angels in Merkava and Kabbalist mysticism. Okay, let's keep going down, and look, there's an angel, a peaceful creature spreading the word of God. Already he has got the sword in his hand, which is also, if you look at his hand closely, you will see it's an icon for the Christian cross. Guido Reni's Archangel Michael trampling Satan. Yeah, Satan was written into the Bible by the last surviving relatives of the Pisos, and he was very unpopular because one of his forebears was written up in the story, in the codes, as the devil. So they did not let him become the Roman emperor like a lot of the authors were allowed to become, yeah, or were allowed to sire children with the Roman emperors, and we've talked about that. That's Caligula and various others. They are riddled in the bedroom with the confused genes by the elites that run the world for all of biological time, or since writing began in Canaan. There's another pair. All of the fine art is magnificent. This time, this is Herodian of Patras and Archangel Salathiel. Not heard of that one in the YouTube videos so far. Okay, Angelic Council, Orthodox icon of the 7 archangels, left to right: Gabriel, Salathiel, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, Barachiel. Oh, Obama has now made it upstairs and he's gotten his wings as an angel. Isn't that great? Beneath the Mandoria of Christ Emmanuel, God is with us, are representations of cherubim, blue, and seraphim, red. So the conservative Tory Connie colours, which is the rabbit colours, and the seraphim red colours, which is the blood red hexagon, and all of it is a triumph for the genocidal leadership team. Right then, and the art is magnificent. This one I've never heard of. The Annunciation by Henry Ossawa Tanner. Okay, so that's the end of that story there. Who's this one? In cancerous pink. Fra Angelico, Annunciatory Angel, 1437 to 1446. That, I believe, is the birth date for Fra Angelico, the actor, the artist, but it may be the angel, because all of these stories are written up ever so recently. Okay, and I think that's now just the references on that one. This one kind of shocked me. So you know all about that red hexagram being turned into the, so that's the bloody red hexagram that the Rothschilds created, yeah? Then it became blue when in 1947 Palestine was sold to Israel, and that was the deal where the American president got, I think it was $2 million to sell off the huge chunk of Palestine to give them Israel and the 12 tribes that had already been culled thousands of years before. Yeah, the 12 tribes never get a life. They are sent into exile all around the world, and that is just a pogrom. I've explained the pogroms, I've made videos about them and how you get your flat pack refugee home, even in today's pogroms from the French, who are very artistic and creative in financial services, in dealing out the dirt on the terror threat, and all of their mythical stories are absolutely pathetic. We'll get to that when I get to the PowerPoint slides later on. Okay, not to be confused, that's the Azrael, the gag reel joke that you see in the Devil's Advocate story, not to be confused with Sir Azrael, a Knight of the Round Table, the story that was written by the popes in Rome, the Pendragon story. That is a reliable source, sourced from a couple of websites that have been heavily suppressed, but it is mentioned in the oral dialogue between the man Abelard Reuchlin, who's talking to Douglas Vogt, his publisher, and round about the time that that information needs to be suppressed, Madonna was under the thrall of her controllers, and she created the song Vogue. Yeah, and all of it is twisted. Okay, Azrael or Arabic, and you can see that the different texts, and the different texts are very important sometimes, because you can see in what would be our alphabet that the word takes on a different connotation, and that one looks a little bit like, okay, so Azrael is often, now this is quite appropriate because of some of the shit that is flying around, and the story that Israel inherited the world ownership and leadership roles in 2012, which was told by Greg Hallett and confirmed by many people. That's Azrael is often identified with the archangel of death in Islam, Hebrew lore, as well as Seikism. So that's us into India now and Southeast Asia. The Quran never uses this name. Rather, the Quran never uses this name, rather referring to Malak al-Maut, which translates directly as the angel of death. One of the Rothschild women, who's married to Kofi Annan, is given that label as well. Okay? Spelled Israel, Azren, Israel, Azrael, Azrael, Israel, Azrael, Azariel, or Ozrael, or Azrael. The gag reel jokes in the Devil's Advocate movie. Do you know who the Prime Minister was when the Queen was having her babies sired by the Rothschilds? That's Queen Victoria. Never gets a life, is in love with her first lover when she's only 14, has a legitimate child with him, and then is imposed the rape using the drugs that are now alleged to be used by people in the speculative society in Edinburgh to cover up all of these truthful stories that the media cover up relentlessly. Yet the name of the Prime Minister that denounced her, and they denounced the little cartoons about what the people were saying about how Britain was run. Yeah, that was Disraeli. Isn't that funny? Look it up on the John Brown movie or Mrs. Brown movie, made by Hollywood. Yeah, made by Zionist Israeli Hollywood. The name literally means, the Chambers English Dictionary uses the spelling Azrael. It takes you right back to Avril, and I know several Avrils that are really charming, and you would never have known that there are links, even of my own sister Sheena, to these stories and being linked into the Jewish angels. The name literally means one whom God helps in an adaptive form of Hebrew. Okay, so Azrael, there it is. And I've not finished reading that all the way to the bottom, but if I do, we're going to run out of time. Okay, so here's the Tobit story. Do you get it? Hobbit, pipe smoking, Toby jugs, little decrepit little figures, tiny, incapable of taking on a massive troll-like character from Norway, which is where the trolls were the boogeymen in popular culture. In America, it's the huge green man, the Incredible Hulk. And what you need to combat that type of menace is a cartoon character which is launched by the Maswich character and all of the people in the Marvel Comics jokes and the Warner Brothers cartoon jokes about the cats and dogs and all of the Pizzo menagerie. The whole world is trivialized but brutalized for profit in the same way, and we need to wise up and get more adult about the running of our beautiful earth. Okay, the Tobit story is now open, and there it is. I think I might be able to tell that better. Okay, so the Tobit, Book of Tobit, and it takes in the Tanakh, the Torah, the Nevi'im, the Ketuvim, the Old Testament, the Pentateuch, which is the Pinocchio joke, and sorry, I've lost my place again. I think we'll just skip that, and you can see the fine art comes up much better in the slides I've got later on. Now there are links all through this to myths and folklore that impact on more local regions, and I used to love my holidays in the Western Isles, and the Macaire beaches is part of the story. If you play that video that I played at the beginning again, you'll see that the Macaire is part of the Behind Me Angel legend. Yeah, that's the four corners of the earth are in front, behind and right and left. Okay, so the Macaire is which is the beautiful beaches and the area of marshy ground behind the beautiful beaches, depicted at the lower aspects of that slide. Okay, so there's the Makia, and that is spookily like some of the venues that they cross in the Lord of the Rings story, where the war dead are underneath the pools and they're gazing up at them. Yeah, that's just after they get through Tom Bombadil's Hayes End, which is hell, and that comes into the story slightly later on. Oh, it comes into the story next. Okay, and those are beautiful ecological regions. The beaches are golden, and the Makia is a lovely, lovely place. Very often there are lochs there. They have sea trout and migratory fish in them, and the ecology is almost totally unspoiled, and all of it could be like that, but were it for the world leaders who selfishly keep the estates to themselves. The crofters and the common people live in little hovels called crofts, and it's pathetic. Okay, so let's go down now to the Eustace character, because when I discovered that Hales means hell, I've never really associated it with one place on earth before, but when I began to think, where are they putting the god or the angel in the downstairs sector, and what could that be? I began to think, well, let's have a look for Hales, and when I went to Hales on Wikipedia, it took me again into the romantic centre of Frankish Christian Paris, and a place where Eustace was the saint. Do you get that? The EU is the European Union, and the Eustace is the EU's stash. Yeah, it's the suitcase of money joke, and what it is at Hales is the marketing centre for the fresh goods from all around the world, and what it became was the subway film, because that is the hub for the underworld and the subway sector that was launched there after they knocked down the market. And the market has such a characteristic design, it's incredible. And I've got it on my other computer in the other room, but if you look up market in the Cotswolds and the market or Halles in Paris, you'll see that the column-led covered forecourt for the market, because in these systems you get massive rainstorms and lightning strikes, which is why the church where my uncle from Falkirk was appalled by the political messages on the wall, it has a stone roof, so it can be hit by all sorts of weather patterns, and the invention of the lightning conductor is a master plan also, and that is led by Benjamin Franklin in the American presidential and leading scientists who tour the whole of Europe before they become leading scientists and invent the lightning conductor in America, so it can be on top of all of the Babylonian buildings that get the lightning strikes for geopolitical events or just commonplace financial frauds, which the whole world is now a financial fraud. Okay, so Eustace, I'm going to show you that on the slides, and this is a little bit more about St. Eustace. So he died around about 150 AD. Yeah, and the church that commemorates him was built in about the 15th century or the 16th century, and all of the facts are not facts, they're just an artistic narrative, and the paintings are beautiful, and you should see the inside of the churches. And in the video I made earlier on, it shows you how all of the names that are used in that video that we've just seen about the four corner angels and the upstairs and downstairs angels, it's the epicenter for the downstairs is Halles, where the marketplace was. And the marketplaces in France are really interesting because everything was traded live. The seafood, the lobsters, the shrimps, they were still kicking around in their cool trays. But if it was a red hot day in summertime in Paris, then the trays were not cooled for very long, but you still would reject the food as being unfit for consumption if you did not get some reflexive response from the animal when you pinched its feelers or its legs. Yeah, and now everything is so politically correct that we cannot even consume the cheese that is made in a wooden churn at the Durham Folk History Museum. It is pathetic. The whole world is enslaved and trivialized by bureaucracy, and it is done by design to keep the people in fear of litigation, in fear of that accident clause. If it happens in your business premises, you could be taken to the cleaners by your workforce. All of it is pathetic. All of it is the blight of the university world. I've been a boss in the university corridor. It is now like being the referee in a boxing match, and the paperwork behind every incident that you have to referee is horrendous. There is no time for deploying your talent on the issues you're employed to engage in. The whole of society is that way, and everybody has to comply, otherwise they lose their job. I've lost my job for other reasons because I'm contesting it, and I'm trying to get the world back to prosperity and decency and the capacity to live within your means and locally without massive trade deals and trade pacts, which my friends all around me are talking about. All they need to do is displace the corrupted politicians and get rid of their secret societies by exposing them as genocidal war criminals. Okay, let me just quickly finish the video with a romantic tour of Paris and the beautiful artwork that entails. So St. Eustace and his whole family. Some of the bits are quite humorous, and I talk a lot about emergency services. A lot of my friends from the school are in emergency services. They're decent people, yeah, but what you've got in emergency services is like in the money lending sector. They have a legacy of dirty dealing in global conflict. So the ambulance drivers, not this generation, but centuries ago, or 75 years ago, they're involved in the laundering because the Red Cross is invented in Geneva, yeah, and they then launder all of the loot from all of the campaigns out of the countries with total immunity because they're completely neutral in inverted commas, and they have the vaults in that completely neutral country that still have huge chunks of the gold stocks that were taken from the innocent countries in those massive pre-planned wars. So the way that St. Eustace was killed was that he was burnt to death because he refused to engage in the Christian religion. That's the story. It's so old that nobody can know whether it's true. The paintings are done thousands of years after, or 1500 years after. They're beautiful. They would be lovely in any art gallery. I would love to visit them and see them, yeah, but the content is not correct. It's just an invention for mind control, okay? but the affiliation that St. Eustace has is with the firefighting community, because he was burnt to death. Isn't that poetic and creative? I'm getting kind of gusted out there again. And let me just see if I can get this PowerPoint file to open. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I've got pictures on one of the open sites of the Toby jugs. Here we go. And that says there, the Toby jug jokes of Falkirk. Let's take you to the top slide. There we go, the Toby jug. Okay. It's just an out and out joke. And it fits all the characteristics of the hobbits and the Tobit chapters in the religious texts. There's one with a penis on his shoulder. That's where the cross was laid, on the left shoulder. Yeah, everything is iconic. And the four corners joke, it's quite ironic that no one is protecting the left wing in any of the political parties. Jim Murphy, the head of Labour, the fraud and the genocidal team, yeah, he's a treasurer for Tony Blair. He is a friend of Israel. That's the Israel man who was the boss when Queen Victoria was having all of the dirty done in her bedroom. Okay, and there's a pirate of the Caribbean, launched by the British fleets, and launched by all of the fleets of the Five Flies, the imperialist nations that sent their fleets around, selling Christianity, trading the El Nino figure. And Nino is mentioned in the video I made earlier as part of the story. It's part of the Adonai, the eternal bit, yeah, and it's linked also to the word owl in the Hebrew text that accompanies the label for Adonai, the eternal. The miniskirt joke is explained in the last video, and that is also the Olympics romanticism joke. The Olympics were held in Greece, and all of these stories come from the Greek myths. The Mizmoli joke leads to the brown bit of the Hebrew story and the Hebrew translations. The Molière Avenue is the Molly joke in Paris, yeah, and it is right next door to the Boulevard Suchet, which is the Poirot law enforcement joke. And if you watch the footage of John F. Kennedy's funeral carefully, the song sung by Simon and Garfunkel about the sound of silence and the incapacity of all global citizens to reveal the massive frauds that their government commit, because none of their law enforcers are really law enforcers. Yeah, that's the Molière Avenue, right next door to Boulevard Suchet, right next door to the cathedral for the man that was St. Eustace, the Eustache in the underworld. Okay, the Uriel bit is a joke about Uri Geller, the spoonbender, and the eel joke, the McKeel joke. The eel is a hugely important icon for the pagans in New Zealand. It is a massive icon for the pagans, and the eels in New Zealand are still massive. They're like dragons in their own light, and they used to swim around in the Dunedin reservoirs, and it is really exciting to see them because they scare you witless. Okay, and there's the reference to the beautiful beaches in the Hebrides and the Western Isles. Yeah, the Me Ak Arai story. Okay, and that also translates to Michael Meacher, and also in the Hebrew versions you get the links to the RAF and RAF vehicles and aeroplanes that brutalised Dresden, and the other planes that flew out of America. I'm not sure what the American icon is. I think it's just a silver star on their aircraft. Okay, and then you've got above my head the Roshi Baal joke. Yeah, and the veil is what everyone is obliged to wear in Islam above the upper lip. Yeah, in the church. In my early days as an altar boy, it was taboo for a woman to attend the church without the appropriate headgear. All of it links you back to the veil that they wear in the mosque. Yeah? And the Roshi bit is a joke about menstruation. And the red Rothschild hexagram. Okay? And the Sieg Heil joke was also explained along with the China joke, which is part of that Shakira, and in the version that we heard this morning on the YouTube video, it's got the letter T on the end, which everybody now knows is the Christian cross. Okay, and when you make it Shakira, she's a goddess-like figure who writes her own music from the age of 4 like Mozart did. It becomes the IRA on the end. Right then, some pictures. So there's the Hobbits joke. I think you can see in the word Falkirk you can see in the word Falkirk that it has been for a long time associated with antipathy to the church. Yeah, the kirk falling. And there you've got the Book of Tobit, Book of Tobias in the Vulgate. Now the Vulgate is also a joke with the female genitalia. The vulva are the cheeks of the female genitalia, and the gate to the second coming. Yeah, or your sex on a Friday. Then you've got Hebrew, Toby, my good, also called the Book of Tobias from Hebrew. Now, Toiva, God is good, is a book of scripture that is part of the Catholic and Orthodox biblical canon, pronounced canonical by the Council of Carthage. That's the place that was brutalised, yeah, by Scipio, and that is the Skippy the bush kangaroo joke in Australia. That was done in 397, long after the saint that we just talked about had been burnt to death and became the icon for emergency services and the fire brigades, and confirmed for Roman Catholics by the Council of Trent, 1546. Something of a time jump, and you might need a TARDIS invented by Klaus Maswich, the head of BBC Light Entertainment, to make such a transition through all of human historical time and to make up any old story that you want to release. Okay, yeah, there's the higher resolution images of a Dutch artist painting Tobit and Anna. We've got a lovely priestess. I believe that Anna means several things. It's an island in the stream, which you've got several of in Paris. It is the High Priestess, and it is also, I forget the other translation for it, but this one I found out about in an art gallery, and the painting is done by Abraham de Pape. Isn't that funny? The Abrahamic religions and the Pape, the first Pape, Peter, never actually lived, and that's the Coldplay joke. For some reason I can't explain, I know St. Peter won't call my name. Okay? And that is housed in the National Gallery of London. I've been there, I've seen it. It's a Dutch orange painting. Okay? The next one is Tobias saying goodbye to his father. Painting by William Adolf Buggeroff. The Book of Tobit, Book of Tobias, the Vulgate, from the Greek. Yeah? It is totally twisted, and it's in the Torah, the Nevi'im, the Ketuvim, the Old Testament for Christianity, and those Pentateuchs, and a whole list of things that were too long to capture in those screenshots. Okay, let's move down. So there's the Esdras joke. There's all the religious texts, yeah, in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Esdras, Latin Esdras means, or Latin Ezra. This is the Ezra Pound joke. Okay, is the name of an apocalyptic book in many English versions of the Bible. Its authorship is ascribed to Ezra. It is reckoned among the Apocrypha by Catholics, Protestants, and most Eastern Orthodox, although second Esdras was preserved in Latin as an appendix to the Vulgate and passed down as a unified book. It is generally considered to be a tripartite work. Loads of long words. It is a joke in the Merton written story about Edoras in The Lord of the Rings. And here we are into the beautiful cathedral in hell. That's Halles in Paris. On the other computer I showed you the image this morning. Okay, have a look at that earlier video I've made and look at the beauty of those windows. Everything is perfection, and all of it is to worship somebody that never ever existed. And the images of the martyrdom of Eustace are now all over the cathedrals, all over Europe and into Great Britain. And the marketplaces that look just like Halles or Hell did, around this 300 years after the cathedral was built. Yeah, you still had the Halles open air, covered. Look it up on Wikipedia, look it up on Google Images, Halles Marketplace Paris, and then look up marketplaces in the Cotswolds, and you'll see that the hell joke is everywhere, particularly close to Chipping Norton. And the Chipping story is a joke about wizardry and witchcraft that is about choosing your lover. My wife took me to Chipping Norton and the standing stones in that region to make a joke about my marriage to her. Her brother, whose asset stripped the whole of the dental profession, was with us that day, and there were chickens and eggs on display. All of it is part of the same fraud and the same really, really dodgy myths. It's getting quite gusty now. And the other joke, so Saint Eustace is also known as Eustachius or Eustachius or Eustathius or St. Eustach, India, is revered as a Christian martyr and soldier saint. Legend places him in the 2nd century AD. A martyr of that name is venerated as a saint in the Anglican Church. He is commemorated by the Roman Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church on September the 20th, and all of their calendars have been changed by egotistical popes, many of whom are called pious because it has the little word pi in it. And Pius XII was the Nazi pope with the canary on his shoulder, who artistically laundered the Nazi war criminals out through the Canary Islands as a joke with the canary on his shoulder. So there's the Esdras story again. And the Tobit story again. And the artistic images again. Oh yeah, here's the other. Okay, so Baruch Obama is in the Bible. The rest of the words of Baruch, this is a Wikipedia entry. The rest of the words of Baruch, or paralipomenia of Baruch, Ethiopian, Sakwokia, Eriamas, paralipomenia of Jeremiah, is the pseudographical text that appears in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church Old Testament biblical canon. It is not regarded as scripture by any other Christian group or by Jews. This Ethiopian text was first edited by August Dillman in 1866. There are 66 books in the Christian Bible, and that is 240 years ago. It's a tiny pinch of biological time. And the stuff that you get about the Lion of Judah and the Afro haircuts coming out of Ethiopia is just a cover for the pistake about the name of the Nile, which is the Pishon, or the Cush, which is a joke about agricultural labour and shepherds using the word Cush to cajole their sheep along the pathway. Cush, Cush, it's the fucking Pishon joke, and the Piso bit is in all of those names as it is in the Latin American currency. Now here's the Four Corners joke, and I'm going to show you, if there's time, a joke about the sodium channels, which I believe has got the world's tyrants quaking now, because many of their quislings in the media are having heart attacks, they're having strokes, and they're having accidents with their cardiovascular status. The ion channels, which I'm an expert of, have a very similar design to that six-cornered structure that we described in the invocation of the protective angels. Okay, there are 4 voltage sensors all around the molecule. The pore forming region is in the middle, and you've got various gating structures that allow you to pass into the extracellular or the intracellular environment. Isn't God humorous in making parallels with all of the vicious jokes about things that the angels that have been invented by the humans, so the humans can be controlled in pathological or physiological acts involving the things that the gods have totally got access to. In Dunedin, before I left, with all of my equipment, which is now being sold off by Durham University, who refused to give me a job despite my impeccable credentials as a leader in the academic sector and in the pharmacy sector, where I was already a fellow. The man, Chris Higgins, has bailed out in panic because he's a pharma profiteer, but they're now selling my kit off. And the whole of the university system is completely corrupted. But look up Bill Catterall and sodium channel inactivation if I don't have time to show you his work. He's a colleague of mine, he's a very capable scientist, and the model that he presents is very like the model for the Jewish magic angels, invocation of the protective angels. Okay, and there we've got the upstairs Raphael, downstairs Uriel model. So Uriel downstairs in the Downton Abbey joke, upstairs you've got Raphael. On the, oh sorry, I put that the wrong way round. And so to the right you have the miniskirt joke. This should be over here. To the left you have the Miss Molly joke. Yeah, and at the end of the video I made this morning, you can see that folk that laugh at that, which is a massive religious and geopolitical crime. Yeah, they're laughing at the deities that they have compelled billions of people to worship and respect over the years. All of it is made up by the humans. Okay, and the miniskirt joke, everything is a joke, like the news releases now, where they get their tits out, or they show their knicker leg, or they show their suspender belt, and that's enough to keep the heat off the financial criminals who commit genocide using NATO's armies. And most of them have mansions like that, and access to a butler, and access to the butler also, who's the corrupted civil servant and the boss for the Sherpas who attend the G8 and G20 summits 8 times a year now for both of those organisations. None of their proceedings are archived, which is why they are war criminals. You dare not talk about what you do in politics and financial services and the global banks and the global Rothschild-run financial institutions, nor do you dare talk about the manipulation of marriages and breeding chambers and assassination bureaus. Yeah, it's me against the rest, and I'm thoroughly enjoying myself because I get my inspiration from the people that have control of the 5 elements that are capable of creating the biblical flood. There we go. And I meant to put a picture there of some arbitrary place like Ireland. Yeah, look up the song Zombie on YouTube, and you will see how desperately sad the brutalisation of innocent countries like Ireland is, and the leaders in Ireland understand all of this story. That's Gerry Adams, that is Paddy Ashdown, that is all of the people that used to rant in the Protestant movement and their Catholic